In today's session of Divorce Court, Terri Tillman and her husband Ralph desperately wanted to have a baby, and after 9 years, she finally got pregnant.
Man, I was on top of the world. That's all I talked about was the baby. I bought everything for this baby.
But when the baby was born, he was in for a surprise.
Well, the baby is biracial and it's not his.
And I was devastated. I was hurt so bad that I cried for days.
So how long did you think you could carry out this deception? You were only thinking about your instant gratification when you were laying up there feeling good in your body. That's all you were thinking about.
Today, Ralph Tillman faces Terri Tillman as he tries to put his worst nightmare behind him in divorce court.
All rise. Court is now in session. Maybelline Ephraim presiding. You may be seated.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is the matter of Terri Tillman versus Ralph Tillman. And Mr. and Mrs. Tillman, I'm told that the birth of your child, instead of it being a happy occasion, has turned into a very, has caused the destruction of the marriage. Mr. Tillman, what's going on?
Yes, Your Honor. My wife had an affair, a biracial affair, had a child, led me to believe that the child was mine all the way up to he was 3 months old. Got all my hopes up and everything. And then that don't end there. Before that, prior to that, she had several affairs with my friends.
Oh, wait a minute.
Sent me to jail.
Several affairs with your friends?
With my best
You're having affairs with friends, Mrs. Tillman?
No, that's not true.
An affair is
That
bad
is true.
enough,
It's
but a
very
friend?
true.
That's not true.
What's this about the baby being biracial and not his child?
Well, the baby is biracial and it's not his.
Is this your husband?
Yes, it is.
I have a
Did you tell him
photograph
that it
of
was
the
his
baby,
child?
Your Honor.
Well, yeah, I believed it was when I was pregnant.
Why did you believe that? Because you
mean-
wanted it to be?
No, I believed it, it might have been. I wasn't, 100% sure, but, I mean.
She knew the
You're
whole
not
time.
16
No.
years old and you're trying to figure out it may be and it may not be and you got to toss a coin.
She knew the whole
and figure.
time,
Hold
Your
on,
Honor.
Mr. Tillman. Don't talk when I'm talking. You have to toss a coin to determine whether a child is your husband's or somebody else's.
Well, I wasn't sure. It could have been and then it could not have been, I wasn't sure.
Well, why wasn't I
Take me
told
back
this?
to the beginning of this. How did you ever get to this situation in the first place, where it could have been, it could not have been? What
Well-
happened to marriage being only one person at a time, your husband or your spouse? Take me back to the beginning. How did we get here?
Well, he just didn't, pay no attention to me,
Didn't pay no attention to you.
Mr. Tillman?
Yeah,
We were
didn't pay-
married. You don't need to go to another man to seek attention. You need to seek me for attention.
Well, that's what
Well,
she's
I mean,
saying. You
you
didn't
go
give
out
her
and
any
you
I was
go out
there
attention.
for her, Your Honor, through the whole thing. I give her love. I give her support. She never had, when she worked, it was for her own money, not because she had to pay bills. I give her affection, love, and then
How
she
did
does
you
this
do
to
all
me.
of this?
We had passionate nights. We had, we go out to dinner. We go out to friend's house. We was always together.
And she told you when she got pregnant that it was your baby?
No, she told me that. When she got pregnant, she told me it was my baby the whole
Well,
time.
I-
Were
asked
you
her several
excited? How
times.
did you feel about that?
I was on top of the world. My company was glad when the baby was born because I talked about it so much. That's all I talked about was the baby.
And how long had you been married when this pregnancy occurred?
9 years.
So you waited 9 years for a child to be your child just to find out it's somebody else's.
Right.
Now, was there something kind of medical problem that led you to believe that you couldn't have a child?
When
or
I
something?
was 9, I had an accident, and at that time they told me that I would be sterile. But I never had any tests done to prove that.
So that
But
was
I
at
never-
9 years old.
That was at 9 years old. I never.
So you were really ecstatic to know that you were
Right,
about to
I
have
was
be a
on top
father.
of the world, John. I went out, I bought everything for this baby. I built a nursery. I did everything for this baby.
Just to be deceived.
Just to be hurt. And then the way she told me was another story.
How did she tell you?
We was at her sister's at a party, and on the way home, she had too much to drink, so I told her to drive with me.
She had too much to drink.
Too much to drink. And then on the way home, she says, well, you think you all that? I don't want to leave. And to tell you the truth, that ain't even your baby. You can't even have a baby.
And it didn't happen that way.
That's exactly what you told me.
It didn't happen.
Ms. Tillman, that sounds like the most deceitful, hurting, angry, vicious thing a woman could ever do to a man or a person could do to a human being. Well,
it was
usually,
hard for me,
What was hard for you?
I stayed
You know,
when she had the baby, I stayed at the hospital.
Wait a minute. She said, what was hard for you?
Well, when I went through, you know, not knowing, you know, I mean, I wanted to tell him.
Oh, spare me. Hard for you. How could you live through 9 months without even saying to him, I'm not sure?
That's what I couldn't understand. Why wouldn't it, there was a doubt put in there that it could not be mine.
And now you're certain that it's not?
You know, and
Yeah, well.
Why are you so
yes.
certain now?
Well, he's biracial.
So how long did you think you could carry out this deception?
I really didn't know. I mean,
And you really didn't care?
yeah, I did care. I did care,
Really?
you know. I mean, I love my
Tell
child.
me how
He's-
much you cared.
Well, I love my child. He's the main thing of all this.
But not
you know.
only did you deceive Mr. Tillman, you deceived the child's father because you didn't tell him,
he
obviously,
knew.
either.
He knew.
Oh, so you told the father that you were pregnant.
but
Yes, the
didn't
father
tell
did
me.
know.
What was his response? Was it the same as Mr. Tillman's?
Oh no, he didn't even care. He said it wasn't his.
He had a fit, huh? The other way.
Yeah, he did.
Call you a bunch of lying, cheating, deceitful,
Yes,
get out of here,
exactly.
the affair is over, I don't care for you much more, I'm not as excited about you as I was. Suddenly he wasn't as attentive as he had been before, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that all did change.
He was out of here, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Definitely. He don't want nothing to do with the baby or anything.
A
So
week
that
after he was
explains
born.
why you never told Mr. Tillman that he wasn't the father. Because Mr. Tillman was being attentive at that point. Mr. Tillman was being a provider. Mr. Tillman was still going to the hospital and the doctors with you, and he was all excited about the baby.
Well,
and
yeah,
then
he
you
was
needed Mr.
excited.
Tillman, huh?
Well,
Right.
no.
And still needs me. I still take care of the baby.
Well,
and
no,
her.
that's wrong. I take care of my child.
Do you
I
feel any
live by
remorse for
myself.
this at all?
Yeah, I do.
Explain it.
I mean,
Because you got a smile on your face to me and a little smirk that look like you seem too remorseful to me.
Well, I mean, I feel bad and terrible that it happened, that I hurt him and everything. But I mean, I love my child. Right now, the only thing that matters is him, and
She's
I'll
never
work
come
and
up
take
and
care
said,
of him.
look, I'm sorry for what happened. I'm sorry
Yes,
I
I
hurt
have.
you. You never said that at all, you know.
Well, I have.
Only thing you said is, I need $10 for diapers.
What happens now that the father said, goodbye, I don't want to be bothered. I'm not thinking about being a father to this child. And if Mr. Tillman were to take the same position and say, goodbye, I don't want to be a father to this child, it leaves this child fatherless. You're not thinking about the child. You're being selfish. You were only thinking about your instant gratification when you were laying up there feeling good in your body. That's all you were thinking about.
It leaves me to pay child support. That's what it leaves.
Well,
At
no,
least-
I hadn't asked him for child support.
At least if you were going to have an affair outside the relationship, which I'm not saying is I condone, at least you could have used some type of protection. Why didn't you even think about that?
Your Honor, if she'd have had an affair with a white person, I'd have never even known. I know she would never even told me this.
Oh, so it's the biracial part that's causing you the problem.
No, it's not that. It's the problem that there's a lowlife out
believe
there not
that it
taking care
is.
of his child, and
Why
I'm
are
going
you
to take
doing
care
it?
of it. You know, I love him just like he's my son. I love the child. I don't have nothing against the child.
And so now you know that it's not yours, and you still are willing to be a father to this child?
We got to take a paternity test to prove that, you know, he's not mine.
Well, I don't know if you have to take a paternity test or not to prove that this child is not yours.
When divorce court returns, the judge questions Terri about her feelings for Ralph.
And you still love him?
Yes, I do.
And now if you had it to do over, you'd settle for that inattentiveness, I bet you too, wouldn't you?
No.
No?
Saying that he
you're
is
just
a
not
bad
too bright
person.
if you can't figure this out, that you should have settled for that.
If you would like to have the judge hear your case in divorce court, call us toll-free at 1-877-311-2222 or email us at www.divorcecourttv.com. Divorce court is back in the case of Terri Tillman, who got pregnant after she had an affair and let her husband Ralph believe the baby was his.
He knew when the baby was born that he wasn't his.
I
He
didn't
knew.
know.
Well, I
Well,
believe
let
he
me
didn't.
hear this.
How come
If I
he
didn't know, why
signed the
did I
birth
wait 3
certificate?
months
How
to
come he
find out?
signed the birth certificate if he even died?
I thought he was my child.
Look, now you're trying to shift the blame over to him. Well, first of all, because
I'm not shifting no blame.
if he knew when the child was born that it wasn't his, why did he bother to sign the birth certificate? How did he know it wasn't his? Had you told him?
No.
And just because the child came out and didn't look exactly like him, that in and of itself initially doesn't mean that the child is not yours. It could go back 3 or 4 or 5 generations. That doesn't necessarily mean the child is not yours because it doesn't look like you initially. So how did he know? He did what he was supposed to do as your husband and believing that he was the father of this child. And he signed the birth certificate. You knew. So you should have asked for a blood test and a paternity test right away. Don't try to shift it over to him because he stepped up to the plate and did like he was supposed to do.
I did.
Now
my
you want
job
to tell
as
me
a
something
father.
else?
No.
Because I'm not buying that argument at all.
So we was together for almost 20 years, you know.
So in 20 years, were you using birth control?
Never.
So then you knew very well that there was probably a possibility that either was you or your husband that had a medical problem. You had not become impregnated in almost 20 years. I think you were trying to slap him in his face.
I did.
You know? A man don't want to admit that he's not going to be able to produce a child.
And a woman doesn't want to admit it either, but when she's
know?
angry with you, sometimes we use that to slap you in the face and say you're not much of a man because you haven't impregnated me in 20 years.
Well, if our marriage was based on just her having a child, then I don't think we had a marriage. You know, that's the way she looked at it. If she knew I couldn't have a child, why not divorce me and let it go at that? You know, don't wait.
If that's what you wanted, if you wanted a child, I agree with him. Why you just couldn't divorce him and go find somebody else and have a child? Get another husband.
It wasn't all just having a child. I mean, after so many years, you know, I mean, it didn't bother me not to have a child. But when I got pregnant and everything, I mean, I wasn't going to get rid of the child. You know, I wanted a child there, you know, there it was, you know, I mean, and I had him. What happened and how I hurt him, I mean, that was wrong.
Do you work, Mrs. Tillman?
Yes, ma'am.
And after 20 years being with the man, you guys had started some argument and were arguing over some other issues in the marriage. Isn't that what I'm told in the last year or so? The marriage had gotten a little rocky?
Yeah.
Right.
And you decided that you'd go out and have an affair and probably get pregnant, and you knew that that would slap him in the face and would cut him down as a man because it's like, it's not me, it's you who can't impregnate me.
That's not true.
Well, if she'd have done it that way, just got pregnant and told me she was pregnant, that would have been a different story. Don't believe me to think I got a child and get me all excited and, you know, I'm on top of the world and then just crumble me down from the top of that world.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was devastated. I was hurt so bad that, you know, I cried for days.
I can believe it.
You know, it hurt me bad.
Because the story is about to make me cry now.
You know, not to have a child.
It's sad to know that you can just be so cavalier about it. I mean, it's your body, but go on, what else is going on in this marriage? Now that you've paid all the bills?
He didn't pay, I mean, all of them, you know. I mean, there's doctor bills, you know, I mean.
Who paid them? Certainly this father didn't pay them. Who else paid the bills?
The bills that I got down here are just strictly for the child.
How much did you pay for just for this child?
Just for this child, in $1,264.34.
And how did you calculate that? Based on what? What did you spend that on?
Clothes, nursery, doctor bills, bottles, diapers. Then she got all these tickets while she had the baby, you know, and I had to go pay.
What kind of tickets?
Like speeding tickets, driving with no license, and to keep her from going to jail, I had to pay out for that because she had a child.
You mean during the pregnancy or since the baby was born?
During the pregnancy and after he was born.
Now you're running around speeding and endangering the child's life?
No, I've never had my child in a car speeding like that. Is not true.
I spent close to $600 just on tickets for her to keep her out of jail.
What a compassionate person.
I still love her. I mean,
and you know the next person you're going to meet, Mrs. Tillman, is going to be like this one. Did you say you still love her?
I do. I still love her. You know, I've been with her 20 years. I'm going to love her still.
And you ready to forgive her?
No.
I
cannot see any reconciliation in this.
Can't reconcile with her, though.
Right, because this just hurt me too bad. I went through it the other times, and I can't do it no more.
How do you feel about your husband? You still love him?
Yes, I do.
Now you realize that he's a good person, huh?
Well, he is a good person. He's been a good person all along. You know, I mean.
And now if you had it to do over, you'd settle for that inattentiveness, I believe. I bet you too, wouldn't you?
No.
No?
I mean.
Yana, if I'm so bad.
I'm not saying that he is a bad person.
You're just not too bright if you haven't figured this out, that you should have settled for that.
If I'm so bad.
After all of this, you're just not thinking too clearly at all.
When divorce court returns, the judge renders her verdict. And an update on the case of Denise Godet versus Kyle Godet.
This was something that me and Denise wanted. We wanted a child.
Miss Godet, do you know who the father is?
No, I do not.
You were having sex with two men at that point?
Yes.
Divorce court is back and the verdict is in the case of Terri Tillman, who gave birth to a biracial baby and let her husband Ralph believe it was his.
I mean, he don't seem to care.
I don't care. I've been more caring than anything in this.
You know what? She still needs to go back and learn the meaning of that word. She obviously hasn't looked it up. Because if you don't care, I don't know who does.
Well, I do care. I mean,
No,
I
I'm
do
talking
care.
about
I
Mr.
care.
Tillman doesn't care about you. I don't know who does. Many a man would have left you long
Yeah,
time
I'm
ago
sure.
and would have left this child with nothing. I'm ready for the verdict. The unfortunate thing about this whole case is this. Under the law, that presumption is still there, that Mr. Tillman is the father of this child because he was married to you and the child was conceived during the marriage. Now, I'm ready to throw that law out the window and to have it tested. So even though I'm fully aware that that's the presumption, when you're standing in my face telling me that you know it was someone else and this child is not your husband's child and you deceived him, I'm going to order the paternity test. When people were more committed to their vows and when men and women didn't take sex as a game that you play and they weren't so free to engage in outside affairs, that law made sense. But now when people are in adulterous affairs a dime a dozen, it doesn't make sense. I'm going to order you to reimburse him that $1,264. Every dime of it. Even though the money that he paid during the marriage was earned during the marriage and it was community money, but out of the betrayal and the deceit and the lies, I think that's the least you can give this man, and it still won't make him whole, but it'll make him feel a little better. The $600 for her tickets, however, I'm not going to order her to reimburse you for that, except one half. So I will order her to reimburse you $300 for those tickets. But I'm not going to order, and I will order her to reimburse you all of the money for the medical expenses. So the total would be $1,564. Ms. Tillman, you're ordered to reimburse. To Mr. Tillman, you're ordered to take the DNA paternity test. If you like, this court could assist you in setting that up, and that's the order of the court. Court's adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
When divorce court returns, an update on the case of Denise Godet versus Kyle Godet.
You're really driving me to the point of tears. I'm sick of hearing it. Stop messing up innocent children's lives.
If you would like to have the judge hear your case in divorce court, call us toll-free at 1-877-311-2222 or email us at www.divorcecourttv.com. And now for an update on a previous case in divorce court. Kyle Godet says his marriage to Denise hit rock bottom when another man claimed to be the father of their child.
This was something that me and Denise wanted. We wanted a child. I took this child as mine. The child knows me as daddy.
Miss Godet, do you know who the father is?
No, I do not.
You were having sex with two men at that point.
Yes.
We're going to go the legal way about it. He's going to pay child support because I've been supporting this child not knowing if it was mine. I need to know.
These results say the alleged father, Kyle Godet, is excluded as the biological father of the child. The alleged father lacks the genetic markers that must be contributed to the child by the biological father.
I hope you're real happy.
You're really driving me to the point of tears. I'm sick of hearing it. Stop messing up innocent children's lives.
Kyle wanted Denise to pay him back the money he spent on childcare. The judge ordered Denise to pay him $130. Denise says she has not seen Kyle since they left court. Kyle admits he has cut all ties with Denise and the child he thought was his because he needs to move on with his life.
I thought her decision was fair and good. I liked her decision. I'm happy with it, and I'm happy what happened in court today.
I think it was fair.
I love the child. You know, the child did nothing wrong. She did. So I'm not going to take nothing from the child.